meeting of the Arlington Finance Committee to order. The first order of business is the minutes. First order of business is the minutes. Does anybody have any corrections, comments, or questions? Okay, somebody like to make a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded to accept the minutes as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the minutes are accepted. First order of business is the retirement board. And representing the retirement board is Mr. Greco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Where's your buddy?
The chairman tonight decided to let me do this one alone. Sends his regards.
Okay.
And stuff. So he did say hello to everybody.
But he is back.
He did not go to Florida this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So yeah, he's been around and doing well and stuff. So
just to sweeten you up, have a cookie.
oh, that's okay. I haven't been home for dinner yet.
Okay, then pass those.
Gotta be a good boy.
Pass those around that way. Okay, the first order. Now the articles have been about 3 articles or 4 articles have been pulled out of here. So the order is a little bit different.
Okay.
The first order is what we have as Articles 25.
Yep.
Acceptance of legislation, increase of survivor benefits.
Yes.
What's this all about and how much is it going to cost us?
Well, I passed out an overview that I had sent to Charlie and Carolyn, the subcommittee I meet with, who I met with last Friday, on Section 101. And it looks like this. And it kind of goes over the legislation. So basically, from 1937, July 1st of 1937 to November 7th of 1996, if someone came to work and got hurt on the job and had an accidental disability, they could not choose a continuing benefit for their spouse, as regular superannuation retirees could. So in 1996, as part of the Chapter 306, the big overhaul of the retirement systems, they allowed retirees, if they come in, they can choose to have a continuing benefit for their spouse, meaning if they pass away, the spouse would get something. From 1937 to 1996, and this is the true name of it, so please don't get offended by it, but it's called a widow's pension, okay? Though it did later apply to widowers, at the time it was passed, it was mostly males, so it was a widow's pension. Basically, what would happen is the person would get $6,000 a year for life. We bumped that up to $9,000 in 2011. Senator Donnelly had passed this as part of the Chapter 139, the Acts of 2012, to get it up to $12,000. His failing is that what he relayed to me the last time I met with them was that people that are being treated at substance abuses and so forth that paid $1,000 for to stay home, why shouldn't these spouses get $1,000 also? So that was enacted in 2012. We've held off for a little while since then to pass it to what we thought at the time was right. And currently there's 24 people receiving an average of $10,203 annually, which is basically they've gotten COLAs, cost of living adjustments. And there were 29 survivors, 29 retirees who could get this. And I gave the backup, second page gives the stats on this too. There's 29 retirees out there who could potentially leave this benefit should they have a spouse. You cannot leave it to another family member. It can only go to a spouse. The cost of the benefit, well, first of all, we know we've lost 2 retirees since October 2017, which lowers the number. If someone goes out and dies of what they went out on, they go to a different benefit. They would never see this, and those 2 people did. But the ages of the retirees were kind of middle of the pack, so there wasn't a huge swing. So we didn't feel it was prudent to go back and have a whole nother study done and pay the actuary to do it for those minimal amounts, but it is a little less than this. So the benefit would cost $47,000 a year, and over the course of the final 17 years of the funding schedule, it would be $572,000. The Arlington Retirement Board in 2014 went into an agreement with the Finance Committee in the town that the amount of the appropriation would only increase by 5.5%. Therefore, we're not asking for any other money. We're just feeling that it'll be addressed over the course of the funding schedule. So at this point, over the course of time, in worst case scenario, if everyone meets the criteria, there's also Mr. Stone of Stone Consulting. The assumptions we used are on the 3rd page. The actuarial charts that are used and so forth, they're aggressive ones with the retirement board, always brings it to the newest actuarial tables and realistic age is those studies are done every so many years. There is also an agreement with the Finance Committee and the town manager that should an operational override go through, that the appropriation would go up at an increase of 6%, which would cover some of this cost should that happen. So we're asking that this get approved, and yes, it's going to add $572,000 to the unfunded liability. That comes out in less than 0.3%, 0.3%, not 3%, to the unfunded liability if it is not addressed over the next 17 years. Questions?
Okay, so what's the status of the unfunded liability? When was our
So I also
last
passed,
report?
yep, 1/1/2017, there's currently one being worked on. I passed out one of the second packets I passed out to you all has the unfunded liability on it. And what you would see from the report, sorry, I thought I had the page tabbed off. This year, the unfunded liability prior to the 1/1/18 report is $140 million. It goes up to 140.
Okay, you're looking at the.
I'm sorry, I'm looking
third
at this,
page.
this packet, this page right here. That is the approved actuarial schedule by the state. Fiscal 2019 is a little over $140 million. It peaks in 2021 at $143 million because of asset smoothing, which means when you have losses or gains, you can smooth them out through the years with a certain corridor that the actuary is allowed to do. And we're absorbing some of the losses from the previous years in 2020, 2021, and 2022. It's listed down at the bottom of the page. And then it starts going down from there. I will say that on a positive note, also in your packet shows that the returns for calendar year 2017 was 17.7% return for calendar 2017. Backing out the 55 basis points for fees, it comes to about 17.16% return on the money. And we started 2017 at 139 million, and we ended at approximately 157 million. We added $18 million to the pension system last year through returns.
Okay, so that should help this unfunded liability
It should.
when this gets redone.
Pension reform says that we can never go lower than the last appropriation. So what would happen if with the 18 million is you'd probably see a reduction coming off the back end of the funding schedule, meaning it would be funded sooner. Because we are in agreement of the 5.5% increasing consistently. So.
Okay, so this is gonna plot this $140 million figure by 572,000, increase it.
Over the course of the life, yep.
So basically.
That is, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's a worst case scenario. So that basically says that everybody would, we don't know, with any of our benefits, we come before you, it's a defined benefit program, we'll never know the cost until the last person retires and it's fully funded. It's a guess based on actuarial tables and stuff and presumptions to the best of our knowledge. We feel the 572 is a worst-case scenario, and by saying that, it means everybody lives, no one dies earlier, everyone has a spouse when they pass away. If all those things happen with the remaining retirees, then it would be 572. If someone's spouse dies before them, there's no one to leave the benefit to, the benefit just ends, and then it's a less of a cost.
Any questions? How about if we phase it in?
We asked that, the legislation only allows for the one-time jump,
You can only go from 9 to 12.
9 to 12, correct.
Couldn't do 10 one year, 11 the next year? and then-
No, like I said, we did ask about that. The former comptroller had asked the same question. I asked PARAC, and they said, no, the legislation is passed for 12, or 9 or 12.
Okay, so right now, if a person goes out on disability, accidental disability, until 1996,
Yep,
he died or she died,
yep.
the spouse would get nothing.
Currently, from
Until
1937 to 1996, if someone was hurt, they would get the widow's pension, which we're asking for an increase on. They would currently get $9,000. Those 29 people, if agree to this, and they pass away and they have a spouse, those spouses would start at $9,000. No one else can join the group because you would have had to retire before 1996. This is closed. It's the number of people that I gave you in that, I apologize, the 24 or so people, and then the 29 potential. No one else can be added to it.
Okay, so
That
this
number
will-
can only go down should a retiree pass away and not have a spouse, then they wouldn't be eligible for the benefit would just end.
Okay, so this benefit will phase out by itself.
It'll actually, run its course. Those 53 people that are addressed in that are the last 53 people, because anybody after 1996 had a choice. If they didn't choose a continuing benefit and they pass away, that's, they had the shot. They had their one shot when they retired.
Okay. So we're talking, how many people, 50?
53 potential. We had 29 when we did the report with the numbers. It's now down to 27 potential retirees, and there's 24 current survivors.
Okay.
The cost of that includes the 24 survivors being brought up to $12,000 if this is passed, and then the rest of the cost is the potential on those other 29 survivors that we already, 29 retirees that we know are going to go down to 27.
Okay, so these people in this area, the widows, if you want to use that
Mhm.
expression,
Yep.
right now they just get 9,000 a year.
Right. If you don't pass it, they get 9,000, and they get cost of living adjustments during their lifetime, which is 3% on the full amount because they're under 15,000.
But is the cap still 9,000?
Right now, it's $9,000. If one of these 27 people, if I go into work tomorrow and one of them passed away and they didn't die of what they went out on, we would start the widow on a $9,000
And then they get cost of living?
cost of living every year. Yeah.
Okay. Stephen?
Question,
Sure.
so if we vote this and town meeting approves this, it just goes right up to 12,000, and the COLAs kick in after that, so we're really not talking a $3,000 increase as far as the survivors, because the average benefit right now is 10,002.
Yep.
With the COLAs from the 9,000.
Those people with the average 10,000, they would get their COLA first because the COLA is voted in first. They'd be brought up to whatever, and then we'd bring up the additional $12,000.
Okay.
They'd all go to $12,000.
Okay, but will they have COLAs on top of the 12,000, or?
So
will they
after a
break the
fiscal
12?
year, the agreement with the finance committee is if between the board and the finance committee is if their employees are getting a raise, the retirees get a raise. The retirees' raise is currently 3% of 15,000. Unless you're under 15,000, you get 3% on the whole amount.
John?
Just to follow up on that,
Yeah.
so, but everybody's gonna go up to 12,000, it's not that people who have more than 9,000 because of COLA are gonna get more than 12,000.
No, they're gonna go to $12,000 this year, and then if we vote a COLA next year, they'll get 3% of $12,000, and then 3% of that going along for the rest of their life. As long as the employees are getting raises, then the retirement board's given the green light to give raises to the retirees.
And just one other question. So this is not changing the increase to the scheduled contribution. That's just going up by 5.5%.
That continues to go up by 5.5%. The 572 is put back, and, you know, if everybody meets the criteria, that's what's gonna get added on to the unfunded liability, unless we start addressing it when the operational override goes through and we go up 0.5%. We'll have increased funds to put at it and stuff. It's tricky with these benefits because, you know, we look at it as buckets, how much did this cost, but at the end of the day, it's how much is the whole unfunded liability and what are we getting that and how are we getting that done? So, you know, that's the way it's looked at. There's not, you know, if we were not doing the 5.5%, yes, we'd be asking for 47,000 to help offset the cost of it, but we can't do that right now. We've gone into the 5.5% increase and adhered to that over the last few years. And as you can see in the funding schedule, totally transparent, that's what the actuarial company, Stone Consulting, is looking at and moving it up 5.5%.
Now, the actuarial schedule you gave us is for, as of January 1.
17.
17.
Yeah, because we don't, they do, because retirement boards, just as a reminder, are all on calendar years. We're not on a fiscal year. So when we do an actuarial study, they sail up the year, which we are just closing 17. The Stone Consulting gets the data, and they do it as of 1/1/18. It's basically all the 17 data that's in there.
Additional questions? Peter?
Maybe you already said, but I didn't catch it. What about people that have came to work after 1996? What are
Their options are like the regular superannuation retirees. They're offered 3 different options. Maximum benefit that dies with them, one based on their annuity, and one with the continuing benefit, lesser money, but protecting a spouse. They're given that option. If they choose not to take that, then they had the option. These people never had that option.
So it's based on salary?
Their initial benefit is based on salary, yes.
So
This is just for the survivor.
So
So no new people can be added to this because anyone after 19
I'm
years.
just asking about people that are younger than this.
People that came after this were now given the option to take a continuing benefit. If they don't, they don't.
So
And then no, they'll get nothing.
Do you have any idea what a typical survivor gets?
So that depends on, there's the option of, based on the 2 ages of the person retiring, there's an actuarial number, how much of their percentage they get. Then if the person dies, they'll get 2/3 of that, whatever they're receiving at the date of death for the rest of their life.
Do you have a number?
Not on the survivors, no. I can tell you the average benefit in Arlington right now, including disability retirees, is probably about $28,000 a year for the 603 retirees.
So that suggests that probably the survivor gets a good part of that.
They would get 2/3 of what they're receiving, yeah. If they choose that now. Some people don't. You could have 2 municipal retired employees. Person takes the max, the wife takes the max, the husband takes whatever, who's ever retired, on their own benefit, and then it just stops. I've had 5 deaths this year, and all 5 have no continuing benefit, so it just depends. It's an eclectic group from the labor and DPW all the way to the town manager, and everybody in between is in this system, so everybody's situations and pay scales are different, and, you know, situations with their debt and stuff, so it's many different. There's not one vanilla answer.
If the spouse chooses to go with the, I think, option A, or if the worker chooses to go with option A,
Yeah.
does the spouse have to sign off on that?
Yes, they do. And I tell people I don't wear striped shirts to work, and I'm not going to be the referee. Figure it out before you come to my office. So.
Okay, are there any other questions on this? Okay. Then the other 2 are fairly routine. So the first one is the, I have an Article 41, but that's
I do too.
changed now.
Okay.
Appropriation for pension adjustment for former 25-year accidental disability employees. We have a couple of new people. If you could give your 2-minute
Absolutely.
summary.
The Town of Arlington Retirement Board offers for employees whose retire from the town of Arlington with 25 years or greater of service exclusively in Arlington and retire from Arlington, that their pension will be watched for the rest of their life, that if they fall below 50% of the job they left, no perks included, just from the pay plan, if they fall below that, after the cost of living adjustment, we'll bring them up to 50%. Currently, of the 600, now survivors are not entitled to it. Accidental disabilities, people that came to work one day, got hurt, if they have less than 25 years, they're included. There was approximately 268 people included. About 50 people got the benefit last year. It increased the payroll by about $15,000. And 3 of those people since then have passed away, so I don't know whether or not the number will go up or not this year. It could go down unless someone else falls below the 50%. So when you look at your pay plans that you all see, and you see, I'm looking at Dave, so say a police officer, there's no, when we use the number, there's no perks, no longevities, no education, no nothing. It's what's on the pay plan, less their pension, falls below 50%, we bring them up to 50% of that. When you think long-term employees at 25 years, they're usually going out somewhere between 75 and 80%, so it takes quite a while. Many people have retired with 25 years and never saw this benefit. It all depends on the option they take and so forth, so it's not a guarantee that they have it. But it was there and passed, and Arlington has passed it since the late 70s, I believe. To just, in the chairman's feelings, is it's helped to retain some employees that may have left because of this benefit. It's, works in multiple ways.
Anybody have any questions on this article? By the way, you'll see in the middle of it, both in the article and the vote, May 1, 2010, that's when the chairman and I in my kitchen came across it, decided there was a loophole in here that had to be closed.
Yep.
And so that's what that date is. And if you're here in 20 years and some of us are gone, that May 1, 2010 date stays. Doesn't get adjusted.
It actually was very fair, too. What it did was, someone could have come to work at 25 years old and retired at age 50 with 25 years. And based on their age and years of service, they would have been nowhere near 25 years. And they would have boasted up.
50%.
Up to 50%, I'm sorry. They went from up to 50%. That was never the intent of the law. The law was more of a floor to catch you when you start falling and not keeping up with the cost of living because you have longevity in life. It wasn't to have people come in, work 25 years, leave early, and bump up to an increased benefit. And that was never the intent, and that would be way too costly. So around that time, we all got together and agreed to that, and the retirement board agreed with the finance committee, and that's what that date means.
Okay, are there any questions? Carolyn?
Do we know the exact sum for that one yet?
We won't know until the raises are passed, but last year it was about 15,000 increase after the COLA to the payroll.
When you say last year, you mean this year? Or 17?
July 17. I don't have the data yet for July of 18 when you pass it.
So this
it'll
would have
go-
been fiscal 17?
Yeah, for last year, yep.
So we'll get that number when all of the negotiations finish?
The negotiations are finished, and then when the COLA is voted, I go to work in July and look at all 268 people based on their jobs and what the pay plan says and see what that goes up. So, but it's been on average, it's been the 15 with the 2 to 3% raises has been a pretty good number that it's gone up consistently, give or take, either way with deaths and people falling a little bit below it.
Any other questions? Okay, and then the last one is Article 42. This is a standard OPEB article.
Yep.
And so I believe if we follow the pattern from previous years, and I could get the pages to go, so it should be 481,982 for A. That's the 500,000 minus that 18,000.
4,881, 481,982 is the number from the non-contrib. The 155 will be standard again. That's from an agreement with the selectmen when retirees' insurance went from 90-10 to 85-15. There was a portion of that money that was dedicated to OPEB. So we have $636,982 by commitment. And in the past few years, the manager and the finance committee has allocated an additional $300,000 or so to it from the, what's that, from the trust fund, Alan, I think?
Yeah, it's from the Healthcare Trust Fund.
Yeah.
Um,
Which would bring it, last year we got $899,678. This year would make it around $936,000 if we got the additional 300.
Have you talked to the manager about the 300, whether he's still?
No, I met with Carolyn and then the subcommittee on last Friday, and no one had it. None of us had a number. I'm not sure.
Carolyn, could you give the manager's office a call? We talked to Adam or Sandy, and just double check whether he's still in support of the 300.
I did pass out with you some of the OPEB stats on this one here. Again, I want to point these out this year. There's some years I've had to come here with my tail between my legs when we didn't have good returns, so I just want to say when we have a year with good returns. Last year, the OPEB fund ended just shy of $13 million, which will be in the aggregated benchmark, and the custom benchmark. The 1 year number was 16.2%. That is net of fees. That means after the fees were all taken out, we had a 16.2% return. Since the inception, with Makita Investments as our advisor and using exclusively Vanguard funds, which are broken out there underneath on the next 2 pages, you can see them. We have a 7.7 return. Our goal is 7.25, so the past 7 years, close to 7 years, we are meeting the goal.
Now, the 12.9 million, does that include this fiscal year's contribution?
This is as of December 31st, so if you were going to get us 900,000 or so, that'll be addition to this.
Okay, but the 900,000 we voted last year for this
Is in
fiscal
that,
year
yep,
is in that?
include that, yep.
Okay.
And just to let you know, through February, it is over 13 million through tumultuous times, but because we have the Vanguard funds, which are fairly safe, February 28, 2018, there was $13 million in the fund, so hopefully.
Okay. No parties.
No parties yet.
Of course, just to keep everybody's, what's our liabilities? Is it something like 140 million?
You had to leave on a bad note, didn't you? So, all right, so the OPEB liability, again, it's a 2-year report. It is of 1/1/16. Stone Consulting will be doing another one this year. The actuarial unfunded liability, using a 4.3% increase, was $201 million. At that time, we had 8.9 million in assets, which gave an unfunded liability of $192 million. The one thing to keep in mind about OPEB, which is different than the retirement, is OPEB is not mandated. We have to be funded by 2040 by state law in the retirement system. We have no choice on that. We're, as you see on the schedule I gave you, we're about 2036. We give ourselves about 4 years leeway in case, God forbid, we have another 2008 or something like that. It gives us some wiggle room. The OPEB liability is a GASB, Government Accounting Standard Boards, that required to be on the balance sheet to start being addressed. It helps us with our bond rating. I will say with $13 million, believe it or not, and Carolyn pulled the article from the Globe to back me up on this, we are one of the most funded systems in the state. Other than Massport and a few other places that have systems, the 4% funding that we have, believe it or not, by being addressed. John Belfer was quite ahead of the curve on this, trying to set up a healthcare trust fund, and then we moved that money into OPEB. We are one of the highest funded at 4%. Try to look at the glass half full. I know 4% isn't really funded, but
But it does help our bond rating potentially.
what's that?
It does potentially help our bond rating.
It does help the bond rating that we're addressing it and that we have money in there. So,
Does anybody have any questions?
thank you, Bud,
Okay.
very much for having me, Mr. Chairman, and the board. I greatly appreciate it. And if you have any questions, the email is the standard town one, rgreco@town.arlington.ma.us. Love to hear from you.
Okay, thank you very much.
See you
for
later.
coming.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Tell John we missed him.
I will. Is this live? Maybe he's watching us. Wave hi to him or something, all right? See you
Okay,
later. Bye-bye.
bye. Okay, why don't we go to that article. No, I just lost it. Oh, here it is. So I think that's Article 25 now. You heard the discussions. It doesn't cost anything in immediate money. It adds 572,000, maybe a little less than that, to the total unfunded liability, and then it phases out as these 53 people pass. Carolyn, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I think when we think about cost of living and someone living off of 9,000 versus 12,000, it's not that many people. They've all retired a long time ago, and I think it's something that we should be doing for them. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, discussion? Carolyn, do you want to make a motion?
I move that we accept Article, it's now 25. It's now
Second.
number 25, correct, as presented.
Okay, moved and seconded. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
One abstention, please.
I don't think you'd even qualify for this, would you, David?
Well, when in doubt, don't.
Okay. Okay, favorable action. 1401. Okay, 25 is done. Okay, the article, I think it's 41 now, appropriation for the 25 years. This is what we've done annually. It basically creates a floor, impacts approximately 15,000 a year. So long-term people, it takes a while to get back down there. What's the will of the committee?
I move that we accept the article as is and as presented.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded.
Again, this is a way to keep our older seniors within a modicum of ability to live in today's economy.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Favorable action. 14-0. Things take the same vote as last time, so.
I'll be abstaining from the last one.
Okay, Article 42. This is the OPEB funding, 481,582. That's the amount where we took we've taken over the years, 500 as a base, whatever we appropriate for non-contrib, we subtract from that, and that's what we put into the OPEB fund. And now it's getting pretty close to that 500,000. I didn't ask him how many people are still left, but it can't be too many.
No. I think there's one. It might be two.
Yeah, that would be my guess. Okay, then the 155,000, this is when the selectmen voted to increase the amount that had to be paid by retirees from 10% to 15%, and then voted at the same time that 5% go into the OPEB fund. And then if it ever didn't go into the OPEB fund, they put the employee contribution back down to 10%. So that figure has been 155,000 ever since they voted that. And then the other one is the 300,000. I think we can go ahead and vote it, Carolyn.
Sure.
If the manager comes back, then we could revisit it.
Adjust it.
That's the amount of money we've been taking from the healthcare trust fund. We had the healthcare trust fund when we used to be a pay-as-you-go fund. And now that we don't need that fund anymore, we've been taking $300,000 a year out of that and putting it towards OPEB. Any questions? Is there a motion?
I move that we accept the article as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion?
What's the non-contributing number?
The non-contrib number is $481,982.
What's the non-contributory?
The number between that and 500,000. It's 18, I don't have my,
Okay.
The 481,592? Alan, is it 592, 481,592, or 092?
I'm sorry?
The number is 481,592?
5-9.
I have 481,982.
982. That sounds low.
Because the other number, well,
That's 18.
18 something.
That sounds accurate,
Yeah.
based on our meeting from 3 weeks ago.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah, 18.
Okay,
What's the bottom line? It's the
Hold
sum
on.
of those three things.
some of those three things.
Yeah.
Never mind.
936,982.
936,
982.
Thanks.
any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous.
One abstain. He's an abstention.
You've never voted on this before.
Right, he abstains every time.
I abstain.
Okay. Okay, if we could continue on the warrant and see if we could knock off some of the issues there. Too many pieces of paper. So the overlay reserve, which I think is Article 43 now, I confirmed with the manager's office, the overlay reserve is 200,000. So this is money that gets released by the Board of Assessors and then can be used basically in setting the tax rate. So it's money the assessors no longer need to cover abatements and exemptions. Therefore, it is being released.
What number is it?
200,000.
No, what article?
I have 43 under the new warrant.
46 in the older one.
The old one is 46.
It's the appropriations overlay reserve.
Okay.
Okay, are there any questions or discussion? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Everybody understand? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. And then the transfer of funds from cemetery, we've already done. Use of free cash is $4,593,375. So remember our standard policy over the years, we take the free cash that's certified, which has been fairly high these last couple of years because of various circumstances. We take half, we apply it to the budget, the other half we roll. So half of the certified free cash is 4,593,375. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion, any questions?
Can you say the number again?
4,593,375. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Okay, funding the long-term stabilization fund. This we have done over the years at 100,000. I see no reason not to keep going. I think we've got about 3.3 million, and this is the long-term stabilization fund. And if anybody asks this, if this is the rainy day fund, you must tell them, no, this is not the rainy day fund. This is the town's emergency fund. If we really get hit with a crisis that we need to pay for. Any questions?
Do we know what the total in there right now is?
I'm guessing about a little over 3 million, 3,000,001, 3,000,002, something in that range. Okay, do I have a motion? Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Now the last article, these are a bunch of routine articles. The last one is the Fiscal Stability Stabilization Fund. And I talked to the manager now, and they still were pulling the numbers on the health insurance. So this number will, originally in the long-term plan, it was going to be about 3,000,003. But with the health insurance numbers coming in much better, that number is going to be reduced. So we'll save this for next week's vote. Let me see if there's any other. Okay, we voted 6. We voted 18 and 19. We just voted 25. 26, Carolyn, what's the status on the reclass?
Oh, we want to do reclass? Okay. No, we can't do reclass because you don't have copies. And I just did it this morning with her. And I forgot to make the copies. I know, I have updated controller and IT, so we can do those, but, sorry.
Okay.
We can do it Wednesday.
Okay, so why
I
don't
have
you,
good notes.
give the handouts to Liz, and we could circulate them if we have time after the school committee.
Okay.
We'll do those, so that'll be Wednesday. Okay, collective bargaining. I think what I'd like to recommend that we do now with collective bargaining is okay, what do I do with it? I'd like to recommend that we take a vote of no report at this time. Now, they have, I believe, one contract settled. They have another contract which has been agreed by union leadership, but still needs a vote. They're close on maybe another one. But I think, you give the manager as much time as he can to get the contract settled. So I think we've done this in the past. We voted no report at this time. I added the comment negotiations are still in process. Finance committee will make a recommendation in town meeting. And that way we'll, when the last one, as many get settled as towards the end of town meeting, we'll put those before the town meeting and then just set aside an amount of money if there's any left. for that. So if that sounds reasonable to people, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second, okay. Everybody understand what we're doing? We're just basically telling town meeting, we're gonna report at town meeting on this, and I'll add the comment into it. Any discussion or questions? Okay, so all those in favor of no report at this time, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So, parking operating costs, still waiting to hear there. Town budgets we're doing, capital budget is done. 31 is the rescission, we've done that. Sewer and water, Grant, do we have those?
Yeah, sewer and water, that's the way to describe it.
Okay, this is Article 32.
The sewer comes first. We call water sewer, but in all the budgets and even in the articles, sewer comes before the water.
Okay. Sounds good.
Article 32, sewer. You want to borrow 800,000 and use 100,000 from the capital account.
How much from a capital?
100,000.
Which one is this?
Article 32, sewer.
Okay, so we're
Sewer.
appropriating the sum of 900,000.
800. Eight.
Well, he's borrowing 8.
Borrowing 80, using 100 from capital.
Okay, and where will the 100,000?
From the reserve capital, well, actually it's from the capital fund.
So we're just borrowing the 800,000.
Right.
Okay, so in effect, 100,000 is coming from revenues.
Yeah, right, the reserve account.
And 800 we're borrowing from.
We're borrowing, okay, so we'll put 800,000 in both places on the sewer article. Okay,
We're asking.
this is the money, as I've said before, that we basically, Mass Water Pollution Abatement Trust overcharges us by 800,000, loans us back the 800,000 interest-free. So it's, but if we don't take it, somebody else will.
In essence, that's how it works.
Okay, so 800,000 to be borrowed under Article 32. Is there any questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say, oh, do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the article as presented.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Okay, and water.
Lo and behold, Article 33, water. We're asking to borrow 1.3 million to replace the water mains. And also, by the way, using 100,000 for capital for total expenditure. But we're not asking to use that, we're asking to borrow 1.3 million.
Okay. Okay, and this basically is the same with water facilities. So this is the
Rich Irons.
constant upkeep of the system. Okay, do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the warrant article as presented.
Second.
Okay, any discussion, any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 319. Okay, 34 is done. 35 is done, except for arts and culture. Liz, have you heard anything back? Do we have a budget from arts and culture yet?
No.
Okay, could you call them tomorrow and say that, you know, we'd like, if they could send it to you electronically and you could forward it out, we'd really like that. And if we could get it tomorrow and you circulate it around, if we have time after the schools, we could discuss it and then decide whether we want them to come back in next week.
Okay, because we originally suggested to them the Monday, the 26th, right?
Right,
Yeah, okay.
okay, so,
Speed it
but,
up.
you know,
Okay,
if everybody's in agreement, then we don't have to have them come back in.
okay.
But if we want to do something more, discuss it more, then we could have them come back. Okay, so that still needs to be voted, K. 36 is done, 37 is done, 38 is done, 39 is done, 40 is done. Okay. That's in good shape. And Liz, at the end of the meeting, let's go through this to get that done. Okay, budgets. So let's just go through. And Peter, can please confirm. Finance Committee is done. The Board of Selectmen is done. The manager is done. Human Resources. Carolyn,
Sorry.
Human Resource budget?
Oh, okay. HR budget is on page, I moved mine around, page 34.
Yep.
And if you look on the main budget, if you are wondering where offsets are coming from, they come from rink, rec, water, retirement, and youth services. And the reason for that is because of the work that HR does for those groups, for those enterprise funds. What else? The training bill may seem high, but really most of that money is to pay for exams for the fire and police when they're seeking promotions. There's certain exams they have to pass, then they're state exams. So that's what most of that money is.
Could you say that again?
So if you look under training,
Yeah.
for human resources expenses,
Yeah.
a large portion of that training cost is actually the cost of exams for firemen and police in town. When they go to seek a promotion, they have to pass an exam. And this is the cost of that exam. And the reason it's in the HR budget is because it's related to promotions. The other reason for the cost is they do a survey every other year on to analyze data from the previous 2 years of a group of comparable towns to see what salaries and benefits are, and then they use that information in the collective bargaining. So that's what most of that money is there.
Could I add,
Yeah?
in the training for promotional exams, the individual employees that are taking promotional exams, they have to pay for it themselves.
But there's.
There's a fee to take the exam.
But then there's also, they do some additional testing, not just the straight exam, that are similar to psychological testing that you might do to see if
So
somebody's
that's separate
appropriate.
than the written exam.
Yeah.
It's what they have here.
If the town has to pay for it, you still have to budget it even if there's revenues coming in elsewhere.
Right, but the town doesn't
Doesn't pay for the test itself.
pay for the test. It pays for the after the test.
Okay. Sorry. Any questions about the top budget? And then if you, go ahead.
Where do the, you said the offsets come from multiple places?
Yeah, rink, rec, water, retirement, and youth services.
This is the 16,000? The page?
Yes. So there's a little bit from everybody.
think it only comes from water sewer.
I'm,
Also says it right down the next page.
water
I don't
sewer.
think it matters, but I just wanted to clarify it.
Well, when I was with her this morning, she went back to check, and this is what she came back with. So I don't know where she checked, but
Well,
I was pretty sure it was coming out of those funds, but maybe not. In your budget?
I
it's
think they
not.
only come out of that if you could ask her for an itemization
Okay,
of how it's split up.
okay.
That would clarify it.
But in your budget, you have 16,000 going
Yeah.
to? Oh.
It says it right here, water and sewer offset rate,
Yeah.
next page as well.
16,065?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, then Carolyn, why don't you confirm that?
Just for,
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions?
And then any questions on salaries? We have some changes in people. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just trying to see under salaries and wages, the change of 15,234. And I went down and I think I added this correctly, but I added step and longevity together, thinking I would come up to the 15,2. But
15,234.
it did, it's the
Um,
difference between total and pay.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's the difference between, it's the difference of new pay, which is base plus step. And the reason is because longevity is a one-time bonus, but base and, step will go forward as part of their salary. So the change of 15,234 should be,
Includes some pay, new pay.
yeah, should be new step.
So most of these people moved up a step?
So what happened was someone left and we hired, the part-time position, we hired someone with a much higher skill set. She's an MBA accountant, the two benefits people. And we did that because the amount of accounting involved in benefits with all of our different insurance companies and all of our different employee levels, we needed that. And it's a part-time job, and so we decided that that was the best fit for that role. She offers the most to the department. And then the other one is at an increase to the max without a step increase. That has to do with the way the stepping goes, and at some point, unless you change the grade, the overall chart, the values go down. So that's why she's where she is. And she is also an accountant.
Other questions? Okay, do I have a motion?
Do we want to wait on that or no?
no.
Okay. I move that we accept the budget as is.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, the motion is for 332,013. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 319. Information technology.
IT, okay. We're going to do IT and comptroller almost together. And I am going to hand out, one way is comptroller and the other way is IT, so bring it all the way around. So you should get one of each.
Carolyn,
Yes?
did security come up at all?
In IT.
In IT?
Yes, lots.
How many copies did you make, Carolyn?
I told her to make 21, at least 21, Sandy, at least 21.
Now,
Yeah.
are we supposed to be getting 2 pages?
Yeah, the other one's coming.
They're different direction.
I sent them in different directions, so. This is did you get this one yet?
Was that the? Yes, that's been all.
Here's the other one here, coming to you. Okay, so the first thing to do when you're looking at both the comptroller main page and the IT main page is you see they both have a 5215 telephone. And if you'll notice, we're moving the telephone expenses from comptroller to IT. And the reason we're doing this is because for some rather important reason, a very, very, very long time ago, it made sense to have telephone in the comptroller's budget. I don't know why, but it did. Given that we're going to voice over IP and the way systems work these days, the IT department is running the telephone system. And so therefore, we're switching the budget into IT from comptroller. And we're dropping it by 20,000 from 70 to 50 because we're consistently finding the cost is about 50,000. We weren't sure, which is why we kept budgeting it at 70, and now we're sure of the cost. And then other questions. Why don't we start with IT? Since we got through that.
Okay, is there any other key changes?
The Munis software support is a large change, and that is because it's a 3-year contract and it was time for the contract to be renewed. And we're also using a few more software programs from Munis. And so that's why you see the 17.5. And so every couple, if not every 3 years, you'll see that number go up.
Now, does this include
And
the
the
new?
warrant, so the part of the reason for that is that we are switching from a hardware program to a software program. And so the warranty ended on the hardware, and so we're switching to software as a service. That's that's more accurate than what I just said.
Now, does this include the new collection software
Yes.
for the treasurer's
For
office?
Treasurer's office, yes. So IT, this budget that you're looking at is IT for the entire town. There is also an IT budget within the school department budget. So Wednesday, when school department brings their book, their budget book, you can go through and see the IT expenses. Those are not shown here. This is just town expenses.
By the way, the school department's coming in on Wednesday. Liz forwarded the budget from the school department. The new chief financial officer at the schools did it, and I think it was in early February.
Yep, February 26th. I'm going to send it again. I'll send it again today in case anybody doesn't.
Okay,
know
so
it.
you'll have that electronically. Liz, are
Should
they
have
going
it
to bring in
already.
hard copy
Print a hard copy?
for Wednesday?
Sure.
Okay.
They usually bring it, so don't make.
I don't know if they are this year because they sent it out electronically.
They weren't, they
They
wanted
weren't,
in your,
okay.
they wanted in your budget.
So did everybody get their copy in February? I'll send it again just in case you can't find it.
Okay, so we're not sure if we're getting hard copy or not. So print out your own pages that you really want to ask questions about. While I'm on the topic, there's a vicious rumor that we're getting another snowstorm on Wednesday. Now, we've only got, counting today, 4 days to get everything done. So I am really want to have our meeting on Wednesday. So unless this looks like a total blizzard or really dangerous, or if the manager declares a snow emergency, in which case there's no place for us to park, I want to have that meeting on Wednesday. If it gets canceled, we'll do it, we'll do it next week. And hopefully we can get everything done. So, okay, continue.
And then under salaries, one of the suggestions we also made was that the Director of Information Technology actually manages all of the salary people in the school department and one person in water and sewer. And so we had suggested that their salaries come over to here, and after talking with town manager and the deputy town manager, it was decided that for transparency of expenses for those departments, those salaries should stay in the other departments. So these are salary people who work mostly on town problems. There is a lot of cross-training going on amongst the entire staff, but you're just looking at town staff.
Carolyn,
Yeah.
so are you saying that if I were to sit down with my calculator, my computer, and did across the information that basically it's the same, it's just been transposed to a different IT from
So they had always been over there, but one of the things we talked about in terms of the salary people, is that what you're talking about? They've been in the school department and in water and sewer, but there's been the director has taken on more and more responsibility, and they've all centralized into his department, which is why he had an significant increase last year. However, those people's salaries will come out of the budgets for the departments they serve, rather than from IT.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't really in-depth reason, just wanted to know, it's just a transposition of data from A to B.
Yeah.
Okay, Ellen?
Two questions. The Informix, wasn't it the database for ICS?
Yes.
Is it going?
It's
Why are we
gone,
paying
it'll
for
be
maintenance?
gone, it'll be gone on next year's budget.
Okay, and what about
It's still there.
and maybe the same answer, what about the telephone operators?
The telephone operators have disappeared, and so they both retired this past year, and their total salaries, because they were part-time, came to a little over 40,000. And our very strong recommendation as our subcommittee to the IT department was not to send it back to general fund so I could record that I'd saved us money, but instead to spend it on security system for the high school until the new high school is built. There are at least a dozen, if not 25 doors that go in and out of the high school. Now, I'm all for not having high schools be jails. However, none of them have, a few of them have cameras, and there's someone who sort of looks at it now and then if he happens to be sitting at the desk, which is near the front entrance to the high school. If he's off doing something else, no one's watching it. They report it, and then they can use it if they need to. The police department can check it. But it's fairly easy nowadays and not too expensive to create some better cameras and maybe a few other options for buzzing in at multiple doors. And so we've told him, go figure out what you can do for 40,000 that the principal and the administration at the high school think is a good option, and it's all yours.
Shouldn't the budget be adjusted? Shouldn't we zero out the salary lines and add some expense line or something?
So what we did was we transferred all of that at the top. Let me look under comptroller. And they no longer exist. So you flip over the comptroller's salaries, to the salary page, they're no longer there.
Yeah, but they're in the IT budget.
Oh, are they? Sorry, I didn't take a
Yeah,
closer
there's
look.
40,000 for salaries for telephone operators in the IT budget.
Oh, so, okay. So those two people are gone. And that was our suggestion to him, and so you're thinking that we should
It
actually.
seems like we should zero out the
Yeah.
salary lines
And
and
put it
and maybe
into-
add something to one of the expense lines.
Either put it in telephone expenses or put it into the appropriate line down below.
Well, if it's security system, we shouldn't call it telephone. but
Right,
maybe there's
okay.
some
So
other
put
place
it
to
someplace else. Sure, this was, Sandy and I did this on the fly when I was over there this morning, so.
I think it'd be good to at least get it out of the
Yeah,
payroll.
okay, well, I'll tell him to get it out of payroll
Okay.
and we'll do
And,
that.
you know, should we be spending $40,000 on a building that we might be ripping down?
Well, and yes, we may rip it down, but the reality is, which was, somebody brought up last time, why are we spending security on something? And it's because we need security now. And the reality is, you know, it would be better to have security, even if it's a small amount, than to not have any security for the next 5 years, because the next building isn't really gonna be open for 5 years.
Right, and if these are IP cameras or something, they can.
And these are
sure they-
cameras that can be moved.
That's
you
what I was
know,
gonna say, the IT manager said that, they can take the cameras down and
Yeah.
reuse them because they don't really need to be like tearing out holes or anything that's happened, they'll probably be wireless.
Yeah.
Okay, then, and Sandy, the deputy manager, was on board?
Yeah, his response to me, late last week was, is the finance committee gonna approve this if I'm gonna go make all these changes? And I said, yes, I haven't presented the budget yet, so that we can have the changes in here before I present it. He's like, okay.
Okay, can I recommend then, as Alan said,
That we move.
could you zero out the 2
Balance.
vacant positions
Yeah,
in the total? You don't have to, in new pay, you can leave them into 2018, because they're there.
yeah, right.
Zero them out of the, there, and then,
Put it into what would be the appropriate line item.
why don't you talk to the controller,
Yeah.
or of course, we
Well,
don't have a
I'll talk
controller.
to Dave. I'll talk to Dave and say,
Okay.
where do you want it? You know, which line item makes most sense, given what you're gonna
In-
spend it on?
In the finance committee report, expenses is a single line item, so if we add that to the bottom line, we could probably vote. If we, I mean, I think we could just, take out the, 48 something
Mhm.
from salaries and add the same amount to the expense line item, to the expense bottom line.
Right.
For the town meeting vote, they don't,
Oh,
we don't break
so-
it down into
So
these
it doesn't
lines.
have to have a line, it doesn't have to have a number because it's a one-time transition, is what you're saying?
I'm sure the comptroller will need
Yeah.
it, but for town meeting, they just need one number for expenses, so if we just add that to the bottom line, I think we could probably vote on this. So the bottom, so the,
Well, why don't we just not do this on the fly?
Right.
Why don't you
Sorry.
redo this page, take
Yeah.
out the 40,000 out of
Comptroller.
the salaries and wages, find out from the controller what category line item would be for security.
Yeah.
And touch bases with Sandy again, make sure everybody's on board,
Yeah.
and then come back to us.
Yeah. Sandy's the acting comptroller at the moment, and then Dave was on all these emails as well, the director of IT. Yeah.
could you ask if we can get rid of Informix maintenance at the same time? 'Cause I don't know why we're keeping
He's
it.
trying. Go
He
ahead.
specifically said it's going away.
Yeah.
Let's take it out too and make everybody happy.
Which is the one you want?
No, he needs to
Informix
leave it,
maintenance, which
he
is the
needs to leave it
ICS.
for this year,
Okay.
for 19, but it'll be gone in 20.
Okay.
They have, well, to get rid of it, they have to buy, I think it said 1,200 new handsets and get on the VoIP.
No, the Informix is the ICS
It's the
database billing
treasurer-
system.
it's
Oh,
the
that's
old
the treasurer
one,
one.
that's the old treasurer one.
Right.
That's the
So
outgoing.
no, we're not using
Those
it.
funny cards.
Yeah. All right, I'll ask him again. I will ask him again.
I do have a couple of IT.
Would they be using both systems parallel next year?
I'll ask
I hope
him.
not, but maybe.
To,
That'd be a question for the attorney.
yeah, I'll ask,
Okay, so you'll come back to us for IT.
yeah.
I've got-
So why don't we move, sorry, Grant?
I have a couple of IT-related
Yeah.
strategy type questions
Sure.
rather than amount questions that you could probably ask about.
Yeah, and we may have already talked about it, but go ahead.
One is, we have a lot about this website, everybody has their own website, and so IT maintains the town website.
Yes.
Do they also maintain the content?
Out of the manager's office.
Oh, okay, sorry. That might be out of the manager's office.
Manager's office?
Because it's not a so much a system.
That's where the webmaster sits.
Okay. And the webmaster that also does the content?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, the IT department does
That's
the
Joe.
content.
Okay, very
Just
good.
make sure you see it.
Yeah.
No, I want to know who does it, so we now know who does it. IT doesn't do it. In terms of security, IT type security though, any change in strategy regarding updating security strategy, for instance, regarding hacking?
Okay. I'll
Any
ask.
change, right, any change in the strategy, or is whatever we've been doing just fine?
Could you add to
Which is
that?
probably not the right answer.
Could you add to that security for the voting lists that are on a different computer?
Yeah, we talked about that at Treasurer, didn't we talk about it at Treasurer? And, the reality is that the voting system is not on an internet system at all.
It's not, I don't know what the term is, where it's not hooked up
It's
to
not
the, it's not
hooked
hooked
up
up
to-
to the internet.
It's on a telephone though.
Huh?
It is on a telephone?
They aren't locking those things down to the state.
Yes, they are. There's a card that they pull out
Yeah.
of the
They
voting
pull
machines.
the cards out, yeah.
The state's even issuing laptops that are carried by hand now.
Yeah, that,
So
And
the 300 towns deliver paper to the,
no,
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 it's
no,
not
it's
paper.
not
Secretary of
paper, it's
State?
a
Chip.
card. Yeah, it's a
It's
chip.
just not wireless, just a hand file folder to file folder, just virtual.
sounds good.
Yeah, that's the way it should be.
I thought I'd heard, excuse me,
John?
I thought I'd heard somewhere that the voting list was going to be required to be sent to the Secretary of State or something like that?
Yeah, but the state said no.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Well, that's
But
good.
voting list, but at
No,
least
that
the-
sounded flaky to me, what they
Right.
were suggesting.
Yeah, that's another dictator wannabe, example.
Okay.
okay, Grant, do you have any other?
No, but that, didn't want to separate it from Peter's question about the voting might have been addressed with the treasurer, but I don't think the town information, the
Right.
taxpayers' information has been.
Text,
that
okay.
would be good.
I was only concerned about the voting lists, not
Yeah.
the
Okay.
the
I'm
vote.
not so sure
Oh,
about
okay,
that.
voting lists, because that may, I'm certainly, voting lists is maybe separate, yeah.
Now, Alan, you said the Informix maintenance is the old collection system.
I believe that's all it was being used for.
Yeah.
So,
There may be some overlap in FY19, I don't know, it's a question.
Right,
do we really need
yeah. it's
all
that.
7,000 for a system that we're getting rid of?
Right. Is that the same, did he leave the amount the same?
Software salesman.
Yeah, it is the same.
Support guy, 20 years ago, contract 20 years old, right?
Okay, so why don't we move on? We have IT, we'll come back to. Can we move to controller?
All right, so on the controller, which is page 42. Oh, wait, well, actually, and I passed it out, sorry. That one? Oh.
Whoever has the cookies, keep passing them around. Come on, we need some sugar in this, this group.
Go this way.
Yeah,
So the telephone came out.
for the camera operator too.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, in fact, I
You gotta wait
gave
till we're
her
all fed.
cookies. No, I gave her cookies last time. Don't pay any attention to that one. So the top lines, the main line really doesn't look any different. There were lots of things going on within the department itself. And so if you want to ask me questions, I have all kinds of notes. operators are gone.
Just wait for Chuck.
What's the status on the search for the third slot?
They were starting interviews last week, and they had 3 potential candidates that they had narrowed down to.
So before the start of the fiscal year.
Yes.
Do you know why the telephone expenses were in the comptroller's budget?
No, there's a legacy history to that. They've been there a long time. Do you?
Yeah.
Yes, it
Oh,
is.
you want to tell us?
You think back, when they had a switchboard
Mhm.
telephone operator, it was out of the selectman's office. Where's the comptroller's? Out of selectman's
Selectman's
office.
office.
And they moved to the, in those days when it was brand new, they moved the whole operation to the bottom of the high school wall. And that, the switchboard and the comptroller became responsible for the switchboard. That's what it was.
So they were next to each other and somebody had to supervise,
Someone had to be
so.
the boss.
And they were both under,
And
and they were both under
one time was
selectmen.
under the selectman's office.
at the time. So there you go.
Okay,
Did the
so are there any other, Grant?
By any chance, did you ask, I have yet to do so, did you ask about the step 1, filling the vacant position and how we're striving to do that? And
So,
are they think they'll be able to do that, I guess?
in terms of the vacancy at the comptroller level or
Yes.
lower down?
I'd say the comptroller, for
So-
the highest qualification position to try to work out a step 1.
So they felt that given the market and the amount of work involved, that the salary that they started, the comptroller that we had last year, who was only here a year, was the adequate amount. They're not increasing it, but they're also not decreasing it, given the negotiation they had with him. By the way, he left on very good terms. There was a situation in his life that made sense for him to take a job elsewhere, and he was great to work with. The town loved working with him, was happy to see him go. So things happen.
Thanks for asking. I think that's a good answer, a good way to ask them, put them to the test, and they came up with a response.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions on the controller? Alan?
Just an observation, looks like we reduced the comptrollers by 70,000 for the phones and added 50,000 to the IT budget, so you can take credit for another 20,000
Yes,
savings.
just 20,000 saved.
Good job.
No, you only get credit if she does it. Manager did this. Okay, any other questions on the controllers? So are you recommending the,
I'm recommending it as is, minus as the new one that you have.
the 319,278?
As revised, yes.
Okay, seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 319. Okay, next budget is the treasurer's.
Okay. Page 46. Basically, for lack of a better word, I'm going to say the treasurer's office is a transition.
Do tell.
And it's dynamic.
Because Dean is there.
Yes. In going over the budget, we found out that the overtime in the second line is basically just the cashiers who have to stay a little bit. If someone shows up right at 4 o'clock, they gotta stay there. And they talked about overlapping. So there would be maybe one person come in early, another person staying late, but that hasn't happened yet. The out of pay grade is because the town treasurer, who just retired, is gone, and the deputy treasurer is basically stepping in to do a lot of his function. So the deputy treasurer is moved up to do functions of the town treasurer. Dean is obviously not working full-time, so there needs to be somebody there. And so he's covering for the time that Dean's not there. And then the assistant collector is now doing the functions of the deputy treasurer. So there's 3 people that are moving up here. And above their pay grade. So instead of giving them a new salary, they're just giving them additional pay that they're referring to as that pay grade. And the assistant collector is moving up to do a little bit more function as well. So it basically is they all move up 1 level. So there's 3 positions there.
Okay, so the 25 goes to 3 positions.
Yep.
Could I guess that the larger share is to the deputy?
I don't know. We never really discussed it, but I would only assume based on the percentages.
One would think so. Okay.
Okay, let's see here. The bank and service charges went up by $5,000, and that's because when you go online to pay your bills, they charge you a quarter for doing it, and they want to do away with it. So that's a 25-cent charge that the town collects to do that. They believe that they believe that getting rid of it will induce more people mentally to say, okay, I want to do it. It doesn't cost me anything, which will then, in the end, hopefully, cause a reduction in the staff and people bringing checks in.
Especially after 4 o'clock.
Yeah. The one thing that when they gave us a tour the other day of the Munis system, and I said to Dean, we're talking about this, I'm like, how many people really bring in checks? I mean, like, who? And he said, you'd be surprised. And they showed me a stack that they had just received that day. And I have no idea why people are doing it. I presume is maybe we have an older community and they want to get out. And this is what they said. People just want to get out, be seen, not be stuck in the house. And this is one of the things that they do.
And in the time they were showing us the Munis, which was by the collection counter, 4 people came and went with checks.
This is after the new year, right?
Yeah, this was
No,
just the
because
other day.
before the new year, people were prepaying in order to.
Well,
and
that's an
next year's
anomaly.
tax-
That was an anomaly.
Yeah.
With the reason, what we were there for was, it happened to be the day that excise tax was due.
That's right.
And so, again, people just walking in with these things and they got to process them. But I just don't understand why everyone's not using computers, but that's why. Or at least that's what the guess is.
And I suggested they get rid of the envelopes they send out, and he said state law requires that they send an envelope. Wasn't that the case?
Yeah, but the other thing that's going on is you can potentially opt out of receiving bills. But the taxpayer has to go online and opt out of receiving the bills, and then I believe they might, I'm not sure, but I believe they're going to get an electronic notice. Okay, you can pay this time, you have 30 days or 60, whatever the time period is, to pay this bill that's become due. And that will hopefully cut down, again, they're waiting to see what happens with it. We'll cut down on the expenses here and in the postage budget, but you're not going to see it in the postage budget this year. You will see it hopefully maybe next year and the year after.
Now, how many people come in and pay cash?
They didn't, you mean cash as opposed to a check?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because that used to be the issue. That's why they had to have the armored car come through, because people would still come in and pay cash.
Well,
Small unmarked bills.
Or hundreds.
No, some of them I gave were new.
Right, new 20s.
Just printed them.
I think because some person asked, I'm pretty sure I remember someone asking if they could pay with credit, and she said check or cash.
Correct. Well, I'm sure you can pay with cash. The question is, someone's coming in and going to pay think about our property tax bills. They're not $100 anymore.
No, but this was excise
Yeah.
taxes.
The excise
Yeah.
tax, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are people that pay cash on their property taxes each time it's due.
I'm
make it
sure they have every
right
right
to
to
that
choose
front
to.
line, and they want it stamped, and they want it.
They don't stamp anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
just
another
stamp.
thing. They don't stamp anything. They have a, this is part of the new Munis system. They scan your bill, or they'll put it in and they'll print you a receipt. No more stamping.
Okay. Grant?
That's one of the things Dean mentioned, is streamlining. I would just suggest that maybe from anecdotally or what I've heard, all people need is one bad or one poor experience doing it online and it not working, and then getting the demand and getting stuck in the
Well, they
system,
would, yeah.
that they say, we're gonna walk in and pay. That's just what I've, gathered from waiting in line, paying by check at the office. That's usually what the story
As a
goes.
C-
Oh, I've done it online.
As a CPA, I've dealt with the state on the payment of taxes, and specifically corporate taxes, where they had minimum tax for 56 due on when the state went to electronic filing. And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere near this. I can tell my clients, send in checks, send in checks, send in checks, because I don't want to deal with it. And I don't want to deal with the mistake. And you'd be surprised how good, Massachusetts will take your money faster than anybody you've ever met in your entire life. The systems that they use here.
Vacuum cleaner.
Exactly. And I wish the federal government was anywhere near as good and efficient as the state is. And that's,
You mean in terms of cashing your check? Is that what
forget cashing your check. You go online, you give them your bank account number,
And they
boom,
have it.
it's gone. And you get a printout, and you have the receipt. And typically when I get the printout, I take a paper I tell them to take a paper copy and create a PDF right then and there. But nonetheless, these systems really do work. Now, if something gets screwed up,
Well,
yeah, it can always be
Yeah.
corrected.
Well, for whatever reason, all these changes take time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the treasurer's budget? Okay, so are you recommending as printed?
Yes. 667,866.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Are there any other, so the bottom line on salary and wages is it's saving over 20 grand. How we're doing it now. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 319. Okay, next is postage.
Okay, basically, there's no changes in this. Let's see, the data, the in-state travel was interesting. That's driving to the post office with the bills. They're expecting this to stay flat, as I said, and hopefully in the future, they're waiting to see what happens, but they're hoping that this goes down as people sign up for the electronic payments. So I moved that.
Wait a minute, in-state travel is the amount it takes to go from the town hall to the post office.
Yeah, but it's not the
No,
post
no.
office here.
Yeah.
It's Waltham, isn't it?
It's in Waltham.
Waltham.
But at some point, it was gonna end up being Boston, I think.
But
I think it's still Waltham.
It's part of the operation when they do the mailing. It has to go to Waltham on the depot. Waltham might send it to Boston and come back here. It's
Okay.
kind of a crazy system.
And I believe it, and most of it is basically additional pay for the person to go, like getting paid on their mileage plus the time.
Okay, so you're recommending as printed?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions, discussion? Okay, all those in favor of 174371, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 319. Assessors.
Okay, this morning Carolyn and I met with Paul Tierney's, Director of Assessments for the town of Arlington. And probably the most important thing to focus on and talk about is how, especially for new folks, is the process and the timing of how evaluation of properties takes place. So up until now, about 1/3 of residential and commercial, but we'll talk about residential, properties are done every 3 years. So that at the end of 9 years, every property has been assessed. And that also includes, within that 9 years, that each property will have been visited inside and out by an assessor. If the assessor can't gain entrance into the house for whatever reason. They do their best guess estimate, they walk around, but there should be one physical, I'd say physical inside estimate, assessment of each house. So where we are right now is we're really at the end of that 9-year cycle. And now we're in year 10. And what year 10 means is that this is the year when this is called the data collection program. All the data is put together, put in some kind of format, so it can then go to the town and with the new tax rate, and everybody will get the new valuations for the residents. Town's currently in the middle of a 10-year collection program, and projected time, finishing time for this part of the program is in October of this year. So October of 2018, roughly 12,000 properties should be done. Right now, we're about 6,000, like I said, halfway through. The data collection costs were the assessor requested $300,000, and town meeting approved this amount of funds for data collection. This was put out to bid, and they actually looked at a few bids, and it came down to $227,581. So that's the amount that's used for this data collection process. The balance of roughly $73,000 is being held in a special assessment account, assessor account.
Overlay reserve.
Well, it does not go back into the overlay reserve. It's being held outside.
Oh, that's right.
That's my understanding. Just flipping back quickly to page 54. Not a lot different from previous years or from last year. However, there was a change in salaries and wages of $59.94, and that was as a result of 3 employees getting stepped up. And those 3 are shown down below: $2,500, $2,002, and $1,492. Are there any questions on any other expense item?
Grant?
Computer maintenance, what is, can you know what that is?
Yeah, computer maintenance is a program called Patriot Properties. It's a special software program for town assessors. And for the last couple of years, it's been around $19,000.
The licensing of it?
No, this is actually the use of the program.
Software for service.
So is this is a program not under our control, but under our vendor's control?
Right, that's correct.
And they're the Patriots, the vendor too. It's the company I'm wrong with.
So they pay $19,000 to Patriots for the use of their software,
Yes.
to access it, and to use it,
Yes.
license and
So you can go online.
Right, I get
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Okay.
that's the software.
That's called licensing, okay.
Yeah, if you call it licensing, but it's called computer maintenance.
Yeah.
And one question I did have actually went back to 16 when Carolyn and I were doing this. How did it jump? You probably asked this in previous years, but if you look at line 5206, computer maintenance, how it went from 9,000 in fiscal 2016 up to 18, and then it bumped up to 19,000, 19,000.
They changed vendors, and that's.
Exactly. So different vendor, but upgraded software and
Web-based.
easier to use. You know, they try to keep the manpower down that are out there in the field that are doing all this work.
So,
So is your recommendation as printed?
My recommendation is as printed.
Second.
Okay. 319,701. Is there any questions? Pretty straightforward. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 319, legal is done. Town clerk is done. Board of Registration is done. Parking.
I'm sorry?
Parking.
The interesting thing in here is other purchased services, and that is for the 25,000. That is for the collection of the coins in the meter. They have some third party actually collect. Aside from that, have any questions?
I thought that those costs were gonna be paid by collected money. There's a,
It could be. I wasn't here when they did the.
I think the offsets,
It is
Peter,
offset.
down below the offsets are the money coming from the parking
Oh,
benefits
yeah.
district.
that's it here.
Yep. Other questions? So you had a $20,000 oh, okay. So there's no parking clerk now?
I'm sorry?
There's no parking clerk? Who's doing that function?
Dean is doing, the treasurer.
The treasurer's doing it, but I
It's
think
there,
it's
just
just a
zero,
stipend.
zero.
That's not.
Okay.
That was a stipend.
We'll take it. Okay, any other questions? So you're recommending as printed, 76,905?
Yes.
Second? Second? Okay, second. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded for 76,905. Any further discussion? Alan?
I just wanted to mention that one day I was in the back of the library parking lot, and there was Dean on his hands and knees fixing the meter back there. This is hands-on.
No
This is what he does for his.
I think that's what the stipend is for.
No
That's
Snapchat on
exactly what the
that?
stipend was for.
FaceTime, Snapchat, some
Yeah.
of that? That would be great. Little picture.
Hands-on.
So where are parking fines? Where is that?
Fine.
Yeah, where's
It's revenue. It's revenue.
Okay, where's that going?
It goes in the general fund.
Well, we have the, remember we have the parking benefits district. And so I've asked the manager for a breakdown on that. Because we still have that 35,826. We need the article to vote that money in, just like we voted it in the police budget on there. But we'll deal with that
Okay.
at our next meeting. Any further questions on parking? Okay, everybody remember to push the little button to get your free 15 minutes?
Oh, yeah, that's big.
Oh,
You can push any button. I didn't know this. You
Great.
can push any button on the meter and you'll get it.
Yeah.
Just don't put your credit card in the meter.
Don't, if you put your credit card in first, you don't get it.
Oh,
Or your
okay.
coin.
Or your
Put a
coin.
quarter in first,
Or
you
look
don't get it.
before you
First.
press, because sometimes there's more than 15 minutes.
And always press the button. If there's those 12 minutes, you got that extra 3 if you press the button.
That's right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 319. Okay. Planning and community development, we still have to do that. After we find out about the arts and culture. Redevelopment board is voted. The rental properties is voted. The zoning board of appeals is voted. Public Works.
All right. Public Works starts on page 87. There have been changes to the printed budget, and Liz passed around 4 sheets that relate to 4 different divisions. So I'll start with natural resources, which is one of those new sheets that Liz passed around. Natural resources, for those of you who are new or who forget, that's the division that handles open spaces, public gardens, the bike path, fields, things like that. Starting with salaries, the major change or changes. I'll start with the first line, salaries and wages. The increase there is predominantly due to the fact that we now have a full-time tree warden, which is a good thing because he's a very busy man. He learned that on average he gets about 7 calls a day from residents with tree issues of some type. And that's just a drop in the bucket of what he does during his work day. We inquired about vacancies, and there were in your budget page under salary details, you can see that there were 2 vacant positions that have since been filled, and they have been filled more towards the minimum range rather than the maximum range, which is a good thing, and that frees up some money for the director, which is a good thing because of what else I'm going to tell you. If you look at out of grade pay, you will see that there is a very large reduction in the budget request. That is actually an error. He actually wanted, his request was for $10,000, not for $1,590, and there was some apparent miscommunication. But he has said he's going to live with it because he'll just make up the money through the rest of the salary budget. So those are the main changes to the salaries for natural resources. With regard to expenses, there's a $30,000 reduction in the maintenance line item. Maintenance 5202 is contractual services. That's for tree service, mowing, turf enhancement, groundskeeping. Last year's budget requested a big bump up because we had a new mowing contract that was coming up. So we budgeted for that, and this year's request is more in line with the actual costs. There is an increase in it's a $28,200 increase in other supplies. The 5224 line item that covers mulch, baseball infield materials for marking playing fields, playground equipment, things like that. So the director is asking for a bit of an increase there, but it is in line with historical actual costs. Other purchased services, number 5236. That is holiday lights. And what you may have noticed this past Christmas, there was quite I thought, a lovely display of Christmas lights at the Jefferson Cutter house. And that cost was shared by the town and the Chamber of Commerce. And they are planning on doing a similar shared arrangement next year. And this $15,000 is what we're pitching at. You can see the $25,000 increase in the tree planting budget, which is what the town manager wanted. That will hopefully utilize the management what will be done and where will the department will take direction from that plan that's being worked. Lastly, in this division, historic sculpture maintenance. This year, work was done on the Dallin flagpole. Next year, they anticipate some maintenance work on Uncle Sam. So that's all of the information I have. I don't know if Tom has anything else he wants to add to this budget, but we recommend that the Natural Resources Division budget be approved in the amount of $1,568,271.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay. Questions, Bill?
A very quick question, Christine. You mentioned that this tree expert gets a lot of calls from residents. Can you just say a little bit about what's the nature of the call? Is it trees that are owned by the town that maybe have an overhang, or are
Yeah,
the trees on the property of the owners?
They're most, my understanding is that they're town street trees, and often people will call saying, the tree doesn't look healthy, I'm worried about limbs falling down, maybe a limb has fallen down. What can you prune this? Can you take it down? It's fallen down. It's falling down. Things of that nature. It's street trees.
Okay, other questions, Alan?
I'm a little worried about the out-of-grade pay looking like a blip, and I worry next year when people ask, why did it go up $8,000? I wonder how difficult it would be to correct that. Maybe not change the bottom line, but.
Well, we asked, and we said, are you going to you want a new budget? Are you going to submit a new budget? And he said, no, he wants to live with this.
Do you think he'll live with it next year also?
Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah, that's. I'm just looking at town meeting, and people will ask what that's about, and a typo is a bad explanation. So.
Well, that's when, like, you send a crew out, the regular foreman's not there, the other worker performs as a foreman, and he gets an out-of-grade pay. I assume you can't tell when that's gonna happen.
No, I'm just thinking in town meeting, when that dip just, I don't know, it's sort of lack of transparency.
I think that other grade pay you're talking about was in the, was the mechanics.
Oh, I understand what it is. It's just.
Because he was trying to pick up foreman, and he didn't know which one he wanted to pick, so he was rotating, see which was the best one out of the three. So when they.
That's a different.
Oh, that's a different one?
Yeah, that's motor vehicle.
Motor vehicle, yeah.
But this was just a typo, right? Or mistyping.
He made a request for 10,000 to the.
And then how did it go from 10,000 to 1,500?
He does not know.
It's called a typo.
He does not know, and we raised the issue. First we said, what's going on? And he explained, and we said, well, are you going to give us another, you're going to fix it, going to give us another budget sheet? And he said, no, I've talked to the deputy, I'm going to live with this.
Well, if he has all his people, he might not have as much of this going on next year.
We'll just have to make a mental note now for our own minds to watch out for that next year, if it jumps to.
Right, but that is something that's visible to the public.
Right.
So we have to be able to explain it to town meeting.
That's what I'm
People ask
saying.
questions.
We'll make it known.
We know why it happened this year, and if it jumps next year, we'll know why it jumped, based upon what happened this year.
We'll see an
What?
actual too. We'll also have an actual next
Right.
year.
Oh, yeah.
So it'll compare to the actual.
I'm sorry, I might have missed some of this. Is it a typo in the?
I don't know if it's a typo. His request was for 10,000. And then this budget came out. We raised the issue. He talked to the deputy, and he came back to us and said, no, we're not gonna have a new budget sheet.
That's what you're gonna live with it.
I'm gonna live with it.
Yeah, look, I think he said lack of communication, or something like that, and he's kind of like.
Let it ride.
Yeah.
Right.
So if we had known that he could do that amount, we'd never know anything else.
Now we'll see what it is next year.
Everybody in town media just have.
Okay, are there any other questions on natural resources? Okay, the recommendation, 1,568,271, made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous.
The next budget is the maintenance of town fields. This is, for those of you who may remember, this is our share that we kick in to maintain the playing fields in the town, and the rec department pays for the rest through user fees. So we recommend that we approve $50,000 for town field.
Second.
Which one is this, what page is this?
Yeah, what page
Page
is it?
92.
92.
Oh.
It's on the back.
One line, okay.
It's on the back of a page, so it's easy to miss.
I got it.
Refresh my memory now. This is the town contribution to the maintenance of town fields, and then we get another like 50 or 70,000
We get at least 50 from rec.
from the users.
Yeah. Maybe more, but this is the DPW share.
Right. And where does that money, does that go into parks and recreation? In other words, where does that money go to?
The 50?
No, this 50 we appropriate,
Right.
but the 50,000 the users pay, I wonder if that goes into recreation,
We go to the enterprise.
Yeah, probably.
and into the enterprise fund. And then we use that, and we use this. Does that sound right? Okay.
So what is the 50,000 paying for?
Taking care of the fields, the field maintenance, the playing fields, soccer
But
fields.
not the salaries for maintenance?
I think they
Well, I
use,
think it may be, I think it's whatever is necessary. Salaries, the materials, whatever you need to do to prepare the fields.
I think they use outside vendors too,
You may, maybe
Yeah.
contractual services as well.
which would just be inexpensive. Okay, any questions on maintenance of our fields? Okay, I assume you're recommending as printed?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Okay,
The next budget is engineering, that's on page 94. This division oversees all the town construction projects and provides technical assistance where the town needs it. This is pretty much the same budget as was approved last year. This is based on what projects the division needs to oversee. This coming year, they're anticipating some paving and water projects that will be done. And really there isn't much of a change other than the slight bump in the salaries for this department. So we recommend that the engineering budget be approved in the total amount of $134,650.
Second.
any discussion, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Okay,
Next is the Public Works Admin, that's on page 98, and this division, this department oversees and supports all the other divisions. Let's see. There is a reduction in projected overtime for this coming fiscal year, and what the department head, director has done is based that on a 5-year average number. So that explains the difference in the slight difference, total difference in salaries. There's a reduction in the maintenance line item, in the amount of $1,000. That maintenance 5202, that encompasses professional services, legal notices, mobile phone charges, things of that nature. And there is also a reduction in training, but a $1,000 increase in office supplies, and that line item, office supplies for all of the DPW divisions. This year, there is a increase in the offset amount. And that is because that the offset that's reflected on Public Works Admin is from the, part of it is from the water and sewer offsets, but there's also a offset from the recycling revolving fund. And they're pulling a bit more money from the recycling revolving fund offset because the recycling costs are increasing.
I'm sorry, the recycling?
Recycling costs are increasing, which we'll discuss when we get to solid waste.
So how much do we have in the recycling fund? How many years will that last?
We have, the current balance is $58,000, so not very long.
Because it was my understanding that the vendor now collects the recycling and sells it and keeps the money. Is that true?
The recycling revolving fund is for the scrap metal and orange bags.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, scrap metal and orange bags, that's the.
The drop microwave drop off and stuff. You know, that's true
The
of all
vendor
curbside.
vendor keeps it.
Yeah.
The curbside.
Vendor keeps it.
Two different.
Hey, you're turning on the microphone wire. Your foot's on the microphone wire, it's about to pull off.
Foot on the microphone.
Or wouldn't be happy.
Good catch.
Good trick.
Good catch,
No
Al.
one's listening.
Okay. Any other observations?
That's all I have. I don't know, Tom, you have anything to add?
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the Public Works Admin budget in the amount of $205,049.
Second.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Questions, discussion? So is that 68,000 fund balance from the recycling fund before or after we pull out the 35?
Good question. I think it's 58,000.
Oh, it's 58.
And it's, it would be before. The current balance right now is 58,000.
Okay,
So
so
58 less 35.
so the next year will be about it?
Yeah.
Okay. Questions, other questions? Okay, all those in favor of 205-049, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 319.
The next budget is highway, and Liz passed around a new budget sheet for highway. The highway division, obviously, they take care of our streets, the sidewalks, signs, drains, culverts, street sweeping, and they oversee solid waste. I think this is, but the new sheet I passed around, I don't think there are any changes to 2019, but the prior year numbers are, I think are different, or were corrected in the sheet we have now. Let's see.
It looks like they just readjusted this next year's.
I think the 2016 actuals.
Yeah, 16 is
Yeah.
different.
Oh, the 16.
A lot of the changes, especially the expenses, the budget amounts are based on 5-year historic averages. That's more or less the how these numbers were arrived at. Same with out-of-grade pay. That too was based on a 5-year look back.
Does he plan on doing that going forward?
I think so.
Okay.
The highway budget is very influenced by the weather. There may be a plan to do a certain number of miles of roadway, but if the weather doesn't cooperate, it doesn't happen. I can't think of anything else to say about this budget, so I recommend that the highway division budget in the amount of $1,652 and $1,652,127 be approved.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion, questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 319.
Snow and ice, we are budgeting the same amount that we budgeted last year. And that amount, $1,140,708 will be about 80% of our 10-year average, which has been our goal.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
So the amount that's been budgeted for this year will be 80% of our 10-year average, which was our goal. Where we are at right now for snow and ice, we are roughly at $1.6 million, which is, ignore what you see here in terms of 2017 actuals. We are about the same as we were last year. We spent about 1.6 last year. We had about 70 inches of snow. Right now, we have spent about 1.6, and we're about at 70 inches of snow. We asked about what's happening with the budget given the damage to the trees in the last couple of storms. And he said that shouldn't have a budgetary impact because he's going to use the money that had been set aside to do the backlog of tree care to pay for the cleanup. So
In other
we-
words, don't spend the reserve fund yet.
Yeah. So we recommend the snow and ice budget as printed.
Questions? And I assume he'll know and have the exact figures on how much salt was
Yeah.
used.
He's prepared with that.
Okay, motions were made and seconded for 1,147,008. Any further discussion? Questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. 319. Motor equipment.
Motor equipment on page 106. Historically, motor equipment has been a difficult budget. It's been hard to budget accurately. But in the last year or so, there's been, they've brought in a consultant and I think they're getting a handle around these costs, and they're implementing some efficiencies, and it appears that this budget is becoming more predictable. The major change to the salaries is the a reduction in overtime, and I think that, again, that reflects some efficiencies there. There's an increase in the maintenance line item, maintenance 5202. A lot of vehicle repairs have to be outsourced, and that is the line item that covers that cost. And there's an increase of 25,000 in other supplies, which is materials, parts, and fluids. All of these increases are in line with historical actuals. When we were reviewing this budget, we noticed a stipend in the salary detail sheet of $6,047. And it shouldn't be there, we think, because he's not using a stipend anymore. But the director wants to check with the deputy to make sure there is something he doesn't understand with this. Just so that we can just get the budget done, we're gonna recommend that this be approved as printed with the proviso that we may come back on Wednesday and reduce this by $6,047 to reflect the elimination of that stipend.
Okay, I'm sorry, which item?
It's a stipend in the salary detail under working foreman repair.
Third item.
Third line.
That stipend, okay.
There was a stipend that was used, and that's what Tom was alluding to a few minutes ago, this year, but he is not anticipating using a stipend or needing a stipend next year. But he wants to double check that. So again, what I propose is that we approve this as printed, but come back on Wednesday or Monday with a $6,047 reduction possibility.
Okay, that sounds fair. We can always throw it in snow and ice again.
What?
We can always throw it in snow and ice.
Right.
Okay, so your motion right now is 431531. Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 319, unanimous.
The next budget is solid waste, and that is one of the sheets that was passed around today. This budget is becoming of concern, and I think we're gonna have to watch this carefully. First of all, I'll start line by line. 5224, rec, recycling. There is a $50,000 line item. That is to cover increased costs to recycle. What we used to either be able to get rid of for free or actually be paid to get rid of, we can't do anymore, or we're not doing it. It's not happening anymore. For example, we collect TVs and we have to dispose of them. But the cost, the charge that we impose on the residents isn't enough to cover that cost. So we can increase that, but then there's no incentive to recycle those TVs, and environmentally, we want people to recycle those TVs. So we're losing some money there. And there's some things that we didn't have to pay, we now, to get rid of, now we do, like electronic waste. Before, we could sell that, now we can't. Or if we can, we're getting less for it. But we still need to get rid of it. If we don't recycle it, it ends up in we have to haul it away. So we pay for it one way or the other. And it's costing us more. And this $50,000 line item is a result of that. The solid waste collection increase is contractual, 2%, that is contractual. The yard waste and the solid waste disposal, yard waste has, there's a reduction in the cost for that, but an increase in solid waste disposal. That is a combination of a contractual increase, but also there is an uptake in waste tonnage that we have to get rid of. Right now, we are running about roughly 4% higher in our waste tonnage than we did last year. And he's expecting that to increase. So that is the reason for an increase in that line item.
Is that 5276?
5276, yes.
So is that the tipping fee? Is that what's in that line? So we're actually increasing our tonnage. Wasn't there a period of time where we were decreasing our tonnage with the recycling efforts?
Right. And now we're increasing. And what a thought is that our economy is driving it. That the more we enjoy, the more garbage we have to get rid of. So that's so there's the expectation that unless there's a big sharp downturn in the economy and people stop buying things, they will continue to add more and more to dispose of.
Buy a new fridge, get rid of the old one.
Right. Right. Buy a new house. Build a new house.
Real estate.
Where's the money in this budget for marketing and education around recycling?
That is we have a recycling coordinator in the public
in the
Yeah.
admin.
Yeah, in the admin position. And so,
And
so
she has,
did the budget.
she has been active, and she has obtained been able to obtain some grant money that has been, beneficial. There's an effort now, a big effort to get the schools to recycle paper. I guess there's a person working in the schools to improve that.
Anything happening on food waste?
Yes. Thanks for asking.
The rodents that we're
Um, So the thought is, the next way to reduce what we have to haul and off and dispose of is to continue to recycle and get things out of that stream. And the only thing left, the thought is food waste, which is very heavy to cart off. So there's an idea, a plan developing to provide for encourage composting and try to get people to get their food waste out of the recycling and the waste disposal stream. There is a test program happening right now that the recycling coordinator is working on with a group of, I can't remember, was it 30 or 60 people, Tom, do you remember?
I thought he said 60.
Where they're volunteers, they're disposing their food waste in these special containers so that we don't have another problem. And the idea is to try to figure out a way to get people to not add food waste. There's one community, and I can't remember which one it is, that has a weekly food waste pickup and a bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, other waste pickup. The thought being that if you don't have food decaying, you can hold off for 2 weeks for your garbage to be collected, but your food waste has to be collected weekly. But it may be less of a, especially with composting, it might be a smaller amount.
Back in the 70s, that's what we did in town. You had your
I remember.
garbage bin,
I remember.
and then you had your trash bins. And your garbage bin was your food waste.
Yep, everybody used to have a bucket
Right,
around
step the
in the back
bucket,
of the
right.
house.
So maybe we should go back to that.
Well, that's a rat problem.
Well,
Yeah.
but
Well,
we
it
have the
depends
special
upon how you-
compost container.
Well, it depends upon, how you, the rats never, ours was actually embedded in our driveway.
We still have one.
Okay. Grant?
Any interesting paradox with the trying to encourage people to recycle, but if it costs them more, then they won't. It's a tough balance.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking, can we add a line item? Well, is there a group, nonprofit group in our budget that does recycling in the warrant article?
Well, there's a recycling committee.
So does the recycling committee have a certain amount of budget?
Yeah.
Yes.
And have they asked for an increase or not
Like
recently?
2 years ago,
Yeah.
3 years ago they did, didn't they?
Okay.
In terms of education, two ways of getting rid of, certain types of garbage or food, and one is the garbage disposal versus throwing it in the trash bag. Which one would the town recommend?
I don't know. I don't know.
In terms of education, that would be a great, public service thing, don't dispose it down the garbage disposal, because,
Well,
the sewer
let's,
cost.
well, getting close to the end, I'd like to sort of try to finish up the public service budget. Are there any more questions on the solid waste?
I actually have one question, and it's financial. The tonnage of the recycling that we're paying for, is it cheaper per ton to get rid of it than the solid waste? Or is it the same, that's just what the 50, it's such a minor amount? Because I thought, there seems to be a lot of recycling out there.
Right now, Tom, correct me, I think right now, it is cheaper for us to recycle than to toss. But this contract is gonna expire. And they have put us on notice that that's gonna change.
Okay, that's
That,
Correct.
I remember that.
So that will be a problem.
It's gonna be a problem soon.
Okay. Carolyn?
In the fact that it's going to change, is that increase in recycle simply from hazardous waste, scrap metal, those types of things, TVs, or is it also recycling of paper goods
Yeah, it's
and
recycling,
bottles?
yeah.
Oh, so it is of that as well.
and now, so even if it becomes cheaper to just throw out and not recycle, the state requires us to recycle.
Right.
Yeah.
So, there are gonna be problems here.
We still want to reduce our food waste.
Okay, is there any other questions on solid waste? Okay, so your motion is 3,715,751
Yes.
Second.
and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 319.
Next is cemetery on page 110. The big reduction in this year's budget from last year's is in contractual services, the maintenance line item. There was in the 2018 budget, we were anticipating a new, I think it was a new mowing contract. So we budgeted for that, and now, now that we have know the numbers, we've been able to reduce the request this year. There's this $5,000 reduction in supplies, landscaping materials, things like that, and that is reflective of actuals for the last several years. So I recommend approval of the cemetery division budget as printed.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So 253,503. Questions, discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Next is street lighting. On page 114. And they are requesting a $5,000 increase in the maintenance line item. Just to refresh people's memories, we contract with Siemens to maintain the lights, but we're responsible for the poles. So if they get knocked down, we have to replace them. And because of that, this cost fluctuates a lot. So I recommend approval of the street lighting budget in the amount of $35,000.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any questions? I can remember when we first started, this budget was like $500,000. So, okay, all those in favor of this budget, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 319. Traffic signals.
And there is, the last item is traffic signals, and there is the town manager is asking for $45,000 more in the maintenance line item. And this is, more accurately reflects historic numbers, essentially. It's a better budget estimate.
it seems I'm seeing in a lot of budgets now, they're trying to be more accurate in their line items and projecting out, so are more consistent across the years, which I think is good. Okay, questions? Caroline?
So this is just maintenance. Any new traffic lights comes out of capital planning or someplace else? So it's, for example, the Swan Place with the bike, where the bike lane crosses, and they're gonna do something similar down at Lake Street this year, so that's why I'm asking.
I think if it's planned, it would, but there are times when they are just knocked down. And for, I think in 2014.
Right, we had a bunch
We
that
had
were
a,
knocked down.
they were knocked down, they had to be replaced, and I had came on a DPW.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, the recommendation is for $100,000. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, 319. That all your budgets, Christine?
That's it.
Okay, now it looks like we've got the IT budget to get clarified. We've got planning and community development with the arts.
HR.
And I think we still have, no, we've done personnel. We need,
Parks and Rec.
that's right, we need both of those.
And
And we need retirement and pensions. I mean, retirement and insurance. Okay, those pretty much ready to go?
No, I just sent out the new budgets for Rec and Rec, so everybody needs to send me a question so I can.
Well, I think what we just want to see is where, how these numbers
Right,
are fitted in.
I did that today. But still, people are gonna have questions.
Okay, yeah, but when I saw it was just sort of a listing of all the contracts. I guess what I was hoping to see is the actual budget that we see. And like say there's $100,000, picking numbers out of the air. Last year it was 50. This year, additional 50 was used to be paid out of revolving funds. In other words, line items so we can see apples to apples and where the differences are, those could be noted. I think that would help us a great deal in reviewing the budget.
And again, I mean, I feel like that's what I've tried to tell John and Sandy, and that's what the same
You
is.
saw the thing she sent around?
I'm sorry?
You saw the thing she sent around?
Yeah, it just seemed like a whole listing of individual items, but there was no comparison to the prior year. And maybe it was wrong, I just glanced at it. But I just want to see if we spent 50 grand that last year, we spent 100, recommending 100 now, is the difference between those two items, the amount of money that used to come out of the revolving fund. That's just so we can see apples to apples with the explanations. That's what I was hoping to see.
You may have to have them come in.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I tried to explain that.
Yeah.
They may have to come in.
Well, it's not going to do any good if we can't see paper in front of us to see where it's coming out. Even if they just said, okay, here's this year's fiscal 18 budget, here's fiscal 19, and then here's the revolving funds, and add them together so we could see how it's different, you know, on that. So all I can say is try again. Okay, so we're gonna need retirement and health insurance.
Insurance, I'm reading Karen on Friday, so I can do it Monday.
Okay.
Then sewer and water.
Okay, we don't have a lot of time to get this done.
We've been waiting on the GIC rates.
That's true.
That's why we
That's
can't
true.
do
Yeah,
insurance.
everyone's waiting on the rates.
Okay. So I'm hoping, you know, if something happens on Wednesday, I'll send you an email. Christine's going to call and confirm with the superintendent for Wednesday. And then hopefully we can wrap up everything on Monday. That would be my goal. Any other business before the committee? Meeting adjourned.